So I have a question here today from Ken in Canada. And as usual with Judah, when we work together here, we see different layers of meaning and questions underneath the questions. So it may feel like I'm not exactly answering the question, but I'm actually going to answer with Judah here assisting me some of the questions beneath the question. So it says here that Ken's been exploring some of R.J. Spina's books and that he seems to be saying a lot of similar things to what the Judah channel says about the ego identity and the process of enlightenment. So my first comment on that would be that it's really beautiful that you're on this journey, that you're finding, and I would say maybe even attracting various tools such as the things that we offer on the Judah channel and RJ's books and perhaps other things as well. And one of the things that will happen in this sort of a journey as you sift and sort through different teachings is you will find common threads that resonate for you, and it seems like you're finding those. So one comment I would say is that I've never listened to RJ's any of his work. I didn't actually realize who he was until you sent this message. So this is kind of the way of source and spirit and piecing together our spiritual journey. It's almost like kind of like a bone digger who digs up on an archaeological dig, digs up bones and then reassembles them. So this is some of what we are doing with our soul in order to become a fifth dimensional being, is we are digging around to find our soul's bones, so to speak, and then to reassemble it to get a picture of who we really are on a soul level, on a cosmic, more eternal level. And so I love that you are receiving teaching from two different teachers that ring true for you. And I'm sure RJ's never met me or encountered my work, and I haven't encountered his. So when I took time to listen, Ken, to this video link that you sent me of RJ's work, my initial instinct is that RJ is a very, very enlightened teacher. And so my first instinct would be to be open-minded and consider anything that he had to say. And particularly if there are things that overlap with other enlightened beings such as Judah that you trust, that you could really give attention to that. Now, as for responding to, you have a comment here about that RJ says that narcissists don't reincarnate, that their experience on the earth is a one-time deal. And you ask, how is that so? And if so, where do these narcissists come from? So it sounds like you're asking a question about what is the origin of a narcissist? Do they have a soul? And so on. So the first thing I have to say is, on a broad general scale, our policy, I don't really like the word policy very much, but the wisdom that Judah has given for communications is that we don't comment on or interpret other spiritual teachers or channeled information. And I want to talk about that for a moment because it's an important insight into your spiritual growth and learning. So I also really try very hard. Sometimes I slip, but for the most part, I don't analyze, explain, defend, or try to illuminate anything that Judah has said. I allow the message to stand on its own 2 feet. And here's the reason why. Judah gave me a remembrance of a game that I used to play with children as a school teacher, and we called the name of the game Gossip. Now, as I give you this metaphor, I'm not alluding to the fact that anything we're doing here is gossip. So you have to kind of forget that the title of the game is Gossip and just kind of understand the metaphor from a different angle. So in this little game, you assemble children all in a circle, and one child gets to devise a sentence. Maybe the sentence is, I have a bee in my bonnet. And then they would whisper it to the child next to them, and the child next then would whisper it on to the next and the next and the next. And the rule of the game is you're not allowed to repeat it in the child's ear. You can only get to say it once, so you have to listen really carefully to try to hear the sentence. And so the joke or the gag of the game is, by the time it gets all the way around the circle, what the last child announces what they heard, it's usually radically different than the original sentence. I have a bee in my bonnet, right? And so this is why I have a policy with Judah not to analyze, justify, explain any other spiritual teacher's teaching. Because the truth is, only RJ knows exactly what he meant when he made those statements. And so I don't want to elaborate or assume anything. For instance, even the word narcissist can have a really broad meaning. What it means to RJ might be different than what it means to me, or what it means to a trained psychologist, and so on. So what I would encourage you to do is listen to the heart of the message and see if it resonates for you, and try not to get into too much of the complexities of teachings, but look for the places that overlap and really light you up and give you a sense of meaning and illumination for your path. So I love that you asked the question. I think it's great to hold questions in your heart, to hold them up to angels and to your higher self. And also, I would say to really lean into your own higher self for understanding that you're looking for, rather than looking necessarily to another being such as Judah to confirm or disconfirm a particular principle. And if it seems to be a paradox, or you're at a dead end with it and you can't sort it out, just simply put it on a shelf and know that if it's something you need to know or understand, that the illumination will come back to you at exactly the right time. Now, that being said, not commenting on RJ's concepts around narcissism, I would say that my own understanding of narcissism that aligns with some of the things that he said is that narcissists can most certainly be in our spiritual journeys in order to break our ego paradigms. So narcissists can act as button breakers. You know, we use the term sometimes it's pushing my button, and we all have this experience of certain people or places or things, situations in our life that are pushing our buttons and are causing our ego to arise, and we will tend to react and respond in our ego. And so in that respect, those situations are very beneficial because they show us areas where we lack surrender, areas where we're still attached and holding on to ways of thinking and being and doing that aren't serving us anymore. So narcissists are they're the pros at this. They are the the piece de resistance. They are the ones who will really call us on the carpet, and we will really get to see what's truly, truly inside of us when we are in their presence, because they just can't help but push our buttons. So now, I'm not saying that to say that somebody should stay in a relationship with a narcissist, but there is an awareness that can come from them. And if one chooses, for some reason, to either voluntary or involuntarily to remain in some sort of energetic exchange or relationship with a narcissist, then they will likely become a spiritual giant of sorts if they can remain in that relationship or that interaction with awareness, not just awareness of the other, but awareness of the self and how that narcissist is reviving or triggering their ego. If they can remain aware in that situation, they truly can become a spiritual giant. Now, here's one of the most important lessons that I learned from a relationship with a narcissist. First of all, I would say that the narcissists in my life have absolutely worked to break my buttons, to show my ego to me. So I had a relationship with a narcissist, And I constantly struggled with wanting to get out of the relationship and just kind of holding my heart open before God to hear what I needed to do in the relationship. And I'm going to tell you about the personal breakthrough that I had. When I began to own that this person was mirroring back to me some of my own dark, narcissistic, self-centered parts that I didn't want to see, that I didn't want to own, that I didn't want, my ego did not want to come out into the light. When I began to allow this person to, when I began to drop my judgment of this person, even though everything or many things they were doing were screaming narcissism to me, when I dropped my judgment and I said, who's the narcissist? I'm the narcissist. It's me. It's me. I'm the narcissist. And so I can't explain exactly what happened, but I actually went into a deep spiritual experience. I'm going to call it like a life review. And in this experience that lasted, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, I actually saw played before me almost like a movie reel, not quite that tangible, but every moment in my life when I've behaved narcissistically. And these were just played out for me one after another, after another, after another, after another. And in that, my heart broke open, and I was able to see that we are all narcissists, that we're all self-centered, that we all do things out of unconsciousness that hurt and wound others, even hurt and wound them very deeply. And so I was able to enter into a state of union or oneness with myself and the other in our narcissism. So what I want to say from Judah about narcissism is that narcissism is basically unconsciousness. It's a state of deep unconsciousness. And so you can look at the other that's behaving narcissistically and understand that they don't know what they're doing. As Jesus said when he hung on the cross, and he was looking down at those that had actually nailed him there. He said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And so we can have this sort of Christ consciousness towards narcissists in which we understand they're completely unaware of what they're doing. And also, we can use it as a mirror to look inside at the ego parts of us that are still harsh, that are cruel, that are unconscious, that don't consider others, and so on. Now, I don't know exactly what RJ was speaking of, so I would refer your questions back to him to really get the answer that you want from him. But I can say that it's from my intuition or my gut instinct that there are likely people on the earth who embody physical beings, and they are human, who really do not have a soul. So they have not evolved into any level of consciousness whatsoever. So they are very animalistic. They're basically like an animal at their level of consciousness within a human experience. And I do think there are people like this who exist. So in a broad sense, using the term loosely, you might say they're soulless. They're soulless. And so these might be some of these very malignant narcissists that we encounter. And so we have to understand that these are non-players in the journey to enlightenment. They are non-players. They are soulless. And we don't need to be saviors for them or try to wake them up, because there's nothing there to be awakened. There's nothing there to be awakened. And so my general broad response around this whole conversation about, where do these narcissists come from? Are they going to be okay? Are they redeemable? And so on, is that I take a broad perspective that I trust everything going on in the universe. I trust everything. I trust in the shadow and in the light and in the interplay of all of those things, knowing that all of us together are evolving forward incrementally. And somehow these dark ones, or soulless ones, or narcissists, whatever we want to call them, they have a purpose in the play of life. They have a purpose in the role of evolution. And so whether they, as a being, whether they devolve or evolve, whichever role they play, it will still be a contribution to the whole. And for some people who are connected to a narcissist in some way for some period of time in their incarnation, that might be their opportunity for a deep, dark night of the soul. And that interchange with that narcissist could be an awakening point for them. And so there might be instances in which a soul agrees to have an interchange or an experience with a narcissist in their incarnation in order to wake them up, or they could build that in or write that into their life plan as a fail-safe in the instance that they were not awakening, that they were moving through their incarnation in unconsciousness, that a narcissist could be received into their experience in order to awaken them. So I didn't give you a direct answer to your question, but I hope that that gives you some broad perspectives on how to consume spiritual material, how to get your questions answered, how to treat your questions when they go unanswered, and just to say to all of our Judah family that I could never tell you what another teacher or another being means by what they said. And I can't take the place of either supporting or discounting their teaching, because that honor and that privilege belongs only to them and never to me. And so I have the experience on my side, perhaps like RJ does, of having people listen to certain things that Judah says or that I say, and because of their own filters or their own life experiences, or simply just a different understanding from me around a particular semantics, words, or concepts, that things can get really misinterpreted. And at times that can be hurtful to people. So take everything lightly, look for confirmation, look for synchronicity. Most of all, look for the witness within your own spirit around any spiritual teaching that you hear. And hold things with discernment, not with fear or doubt or mistrust, but just being wise and using common sense.